Okay, so these are sun golds, and they are ready to be stepped up. And if you can see, they have one set of true leaves here. And I'm just going to take a good potting mix, and this is the seed starting mix that I used. I'll use it for this set of stepping up, and then I'll go to a potting mix. But you know, we can fill. Okay, so then I'm just going to, so I'm just going to I filled the cells up, and then I'm just gonna put my finger, way down in there, and then I'm gonna take these and, squeeze the bottom. And then I'm just going to carefully kind of separate these to where they're kind of individual, and you can kind of lay them out. So here I put my finger way down, and then I'm going to put this seedling down, as far as I can, because tomatoes grow roots from their stem. So again, I'm going to take the itty bitty plant, put it down all the way to the bottom, and again, get my finger down in there as far as I can. Put the seedling down there as far as I can, and you really want to make sure you don't bend the stem or break it, because if you break the stem, it's pretty much the end of it. So these little sun golds are always popular, and since I'm going to be selling most of these, I wanted to make sure I get what have what people want. And I've been selling tomato starts probably for, I had a couple years off, but when I was at the farm, I did it the last 5 years, and then helped, other years with it. It was always a good money maker for us. So again, just put them down in there, and once I've gotten them all in there, I will then, carefully fill up the plug, and, I will carefully push in the dirt. So I'll carefully push the dirt around the little seedling, make sure it's standing up, that there's no air pockets, and you got to be gentle to make sure you don't, break the stem. So I just gently go around, compact it. And that's what's nice about tomatoes, is that they grow roots from their stem. So even though they were kind of leggy, they will perk right up. And now, they'll have, 2.5 inches of area to grow roots, which is, super nice. And I will just keep on going. I will water these from underneath, and make sure they still get plenty of light. I'm actually going to move these out into the greenhouse. I might bring them in the nighttime, just to make sure. But they're pretty much out in the greenhouse, or actually out in the yard, in the sun, because the greenhouse isn't super sunny. Well, so I wanted to give you some more tips before I leave you here. And one of them things is that you can be relatively rough with the seedlings. They actually don't have that much of a root system right now. So, you know, separating them out and where they don't have much soil, I mean, if you can see, they just have this little bit of roots right now. And you can kind of separate them out. And the other thing is I'm not going to use the soil that was in the pot, because the little seedlings could have already taken out all the nutrients in it, or it's been kind of washed out. So I will put this in my bed or my garden bed, or use it for something else, but I'm not going to reuse this soil. The other thing is to make sure your pot was really wet when you started. It really helps with the roots, being able to pull the soil out from the roots, and that the roots aren't stuck. When they have more of a root on them, it really helps that the roots aren't stuck to the plastic pot and you're kind of ripping the roots. And then I found that it's actually much better if I put the dirt into the cell and then make a hole in it, instead of leaving the cell empty and then trying to hold the seedling or whatever. And then the other thing is to make sure that you really tap in the soil around the seedling. And how I do that is I kind of make sure that the seedling is in the center, and then I kind of push the soil around it, and then I go kind of like in the corners of the cell and tap it in that way, and keep the seedling in the center. That way it's kind of a less chance of breaking that stem. And then if you find, and then tomatoes really don't like the leaves getting wet, so that's why I'll be watering from underneath. And I just set it into a tray and let it soak up the water. But yeah, you just want to make sure the seedling's in the center, and that you really push it down with your fingers, and take your time. And I do leave some extra soil kind of on top, because when you do water, it will settle, the soil will settle, and that way you'll have enough to kind of fill up the cell. I like to have the cell as full as possible, especially when it's just a little cell like this, especially with tomatoes who grow roots from their cell. I like to really make sure that the cell is full. And I'm looking forward to more tomatoes. And this was just my first round. And if you watched my video before, I said that I don't necessarily start all my tomato seeds at once, just in case something happens. So I will start a second round of the cherries, just to that way I know how many came up. So I'll know about how much more to start. And then I just kind of clear off the dirt on the cell walls, but I kind of leave the dirt kind of piled up around the tomato plant. Like I said, when you water, the soil will settle. So Well, I hope you like this video and it gives you some good tips for stepping up your tomatoes. And if you have any questions, or maybe you have a different way of stepping up your tomatoes, I would love to hear that. Like I said, this is just the way I've been doing it. I have done thousands of tomatoes because it was one of my favorite things when we were at the farm. And thank you.